Okay, so I'm just gonna give a little tutorial on drawing with colored pencils. The two colored pencils type I'm using are Prismacolor and Luminance by Caran. The pencils I'm going to be using for this piece are, a variety of dark browns or darker colors to create that more melanated skin tone. Got French gray, dark brown, sepia, black, brown ochre, burnt sienna, so on and so forth. I put them in here so that way you can actually see exactly which ones they are. The area that I am creating a skin tone for is directly below the brim of his hat and above his eye. So it's going to be a little bit darker than the rest of the eye, as you can, what you'll be able to see. And pretty much the whole process is it's a very slow process. There's no forcing of the pencils to actually perform. It's a lot of very small circles is what I'm going to use to create the overall tone. And it's you're slowly building. That's all you're pretty much doing, is just slowly building whatever it is you're trying to, the tone you're trying to create. I initially put down a layer of French gray. That's what's you're currently seeing right now. It's a 90% French gray, so it's a little bit darker than a couple other French grays. I will always put down French gray first when I'm doing skin tones, whether it's more melanated skin, lighter skin. Regardless, I always do a French gray. If I want to go with a lighter tone, I'll do a very light French gray. Darker tones, I'll go with on the heavier side. And then from there, it's a combination of colors: the ochres, dark browns, burnt siennas or burnt sierras, so on and so forth. To be honest with you, I don't necessarily have a direct method of how I put the colors down. I pretty much just start using one color and I add another to balance out the tone. And the more I keep going, the more I start to see what tone that's coming about. And if I start to feel like as if it's too dark, I'll start to go a little bit lighter. If I start to feel like it's too light, I'll go a little bit darker. Or if the tone is just a little too off colored, I'll start balancing out with those other contrasts. And for the most part, it's all trial and error. For a very long time, when I was creating tones, it was either coming out too colorful on one end of the spectrum or too dark on the other end of the spectrum. And it wasn't until I started to use a lot of French grays to balance out those colors, and then also I started to just experiment a lot and just continue drawing over and over and over until I started to get down what tones I'm looking for. The way I figure out which colors I want to use, for the most part, all I'll do is I'll look at the area that I'm working on and I'll start to identify certain tones that I'm seeing. If I start to see a little bit more red, a little bit more orange, a little bit more brown, I'll start to just include those regardless of how much is where and where it's at. Right now you're starting to see me add a little bit of, now I'm adding the texture for the actual eyebrows. If you notice the way I do this, I put the skin tone down first and then I add on the hair. I treat it just like as if it was a regular face. Your skin is underneath your hair. That's the only way it's going to look as realistic as possible. If you do the hair, even though it's an area that looks like it's very black or very dark or very white, it's still going to look a little off-putting if you don't put skin tone underneath. Now I'm adding some white highlights for those white hairs, and that's pretty much the gist of it. Gonna darken up a little bit up below or above the eye, so that way it balances out with the colors. And you just keep on color correcting. That's all you're doing. If some areas look a little bit too dark, a little bit too light, just color correct as you go. Nothing wrong with going back over. Hope you like.